Hey, welcome to our Meet and Learn with Building Wealth with Real Estate with investor, author, and founder Kendra Burns. But before we introduce Ms. Kendra Barnes, I want to thank you all for chiming in and listening to this particular deal. This is the African American Chamber of Commerce. I am Xavier Tosin, chairman of the chamber. And we do these to bring on special guests with unique topics and things of that nature so we can inform our members and also our audience, so we all can get smarter together. Our slogan is "We're stronger together," and so we're happy to bring this to you. If you're watching live, please feel free to leave any questions in the chat, and we will answer those throughout. And then also, if you have any questions for us at the end, please stay tuned, and we'll answer those as well. So, without further ado, I do want to bring on Miss Kendra Barnes. Thank you so much for joining us. Just a slight introduction, but she's going to do the bulk of it. She's a full-time real estate investor and founder of the Key Resource, and she has some a unique background. She quit her 9-to-5 life at the age of 32. So I think it's important that we learn from her today. So thank you. Without further ado, Ms. Kendra Barnes, thank you.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be sharing with y'all today. I'm going to share my slides. We're going to go through some stuff. If y'all have questions, let me know. But let me just introduce myself really quickly. Thank you, Xavier, for doing that intro. Thank you for having me on. I could talk about real estate investing all day. We only have an hour. And if y'all know, like real estate, there's so many things to talk about. An hour is never enough. So if y'all have any questions, at the end or while I'm talking, definitely put them in the chat. You can find me. I'll put my information in the chat as well. But my name is Kendra. I'm the founder of the Key Resource. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I'm an Aggie. So I went to North Carolina A&T State University, Aggie Pride, if there's any Aggies out there listening. If not, I'm sorry. I'm also a landlord. So my husband and I, we buy and hold and rent out real estate investment properties. And real estate investing has allowed me to retire from the 9-to-5 life at the age of 32. So about 4 years ago, I left my 9-to-5, never looked back. And I'm also a published author. So that's a little bit about me. I'll tell you how I got into real estate investing, all of that stuff. But I also wanted to pause and say that all of those accomplishments you just heard me talk about, I worked hard to get here, but I have to say that all of it is thanks to God, and I wouldn't have been able to do any of that without God. So thank God for that. And I can't wait to bring you along on this journey and answer any questions y'all have. So before I start any presentation, I always want to start with this mantra, with this affirmation that you are worthy of wealth. And I think it's so important because wealth and wealth building, it always starts with a mindset. It always starts with knowing that you're worthy and knowing that you can start from the ground up wherever you are, no matter who you are, no matter what your money story is, no matter what your family history is. Yes, you are worthy of wealth and you can literally start building it from where you are with what you have right now. And I say that because, a lot of times in the Black community, we were not told this. We haven't seen examples of it enough. And so I want to be the one to tell you that right now, you are worthy of wealth. So this is where it all began for my husband and I. How many years ago now? About 2014, we bought this property in Washington, D.C. And we were working for the government. We had never imagined being real estate investors. Honestly, I didn't even know it was possible. It wasn't that I didn't think I could not, I didn't think I couldn't do it. I just never thought about it. Like you're, as a young Black person, and just as a young person in general, you're told, go to college, get a good job. You work that job until you're like, I don't know, 60 something. And then you retire and then you live the life of your dreams, right? That's what we were told. That was the American dream. And so my husband and I were doing that. We went to college. I went to grad school, moved to DC, start working a government job that I really hated a lot. I met my husband. We got married, bought a house, and we're like, cool. We own a house. We're married. We're working. This is it. We've arrived. But all the while, y'all, like I could not stand my 9-to-5 job. And this is not 9-to-5 bashing at all. I just didn't like it and I couldn't see a way out. And so I started side hustling. I started, creating different online businesses and trying to make money with different different streams of income, which was cool, but it could never set me free. Like I could never side hustle enough to get me out of my government job because there's a cap on how much time you have in a day, right? So if you're constantly exchanging time for money, there's only so much money you can make. And I felt really discouraged. Like, how am I ever going to get free from this job, right? I can't side hustle enough. One weekend, we went to my aunt's house and she had this game called Cash Flow. With Cash Flow, it's almost like Monopoly, but it's a little different in that, um, it really mimics real life. So you're like, you're stuck in this rat race. You're working a full-time job. You have bills, you have student loan payments, you have kids that require all these different things, and you're just constantly working and paying bills, working and paying bills. The only way to live your dream life in that game is if you have passive income that covers your expenses. So the object of the game is to get passive income, right? That's money that does not require your time in order to make that money. And so what I learned from that game was the only way to really make passive income that would make a difference was to invest in real estate, invest in stocks, and invest in businesses, right? And so we walked away from that game thinking, well, wow, if in this game, the only way to win is to invest and we're not investing in real life, then we're losing in real life because we're constantly exchanging time for money and there's a cap on that. So we played the game on like a Sunday or Saturday or Sunday. By Monday, we're looking at real estate investment properties. We had no idea what we were doing. We bought this property right here. So we owned the house that we lived in, and then we bought this property right here in Washington, D.C. Our friends and family thought we were crazy. We made a lot of mistakes. But it honestly was it ended up being a really good deal, really great property. We didn't really know that at the time because we were a little naive, but it all worked out in the end. And so I want to talk to you guys today about 3 different scenarios because I don't know how many of you watching this already own rental properties. You might already own a home, or maybe you don't own any of those yet, but you want to figure out the best way to get started. So I'm going to walk you through 3 different scenarios that hopefully will help you no matter where you are on this journey. So let's get into it. So, like I said before, the whole, goal of investing is usually to get out of the rat race. And the rat race means different things to different people. It could be no longer living paycheck to paycheck, getting out of the bondage of consumer debt, having an ample emergency fund, retiring early. If you're working towards financial freedom or if you're looking to invest, it's really important to define first what the rat race is for you and what financial freedom is for you. I think social media is great. And we have social media, we have podcasts, we have these webinars like this, which did not exist in 2014 when my husband and I started. It was very rare to see young Black people teaching each other how to do these things, especially with real estate investment. Real estate investment was something that it was like, you remember those like seminars, like a free workshop in like a hotel over a weekend, and they tell you how to invest in real estate. And at the end of it, they'd sell you some like $40,000 program. It was mostly all white people, older white people who were established, who probably already had generational wealth that they could use to buy real estate and all those kinds of things. So back then we didn't have all of this, right? And so now that we have all this at our fingertips, social media, it's good because there's so many resources, but it can also be really tricky because I feel like there's a lot of pressure that you feel like you're too late, you don't know enough, you're not doing it right. Am I making the right moves? It's really important to define what's important to you first, and then use all these tools and resources to get you where you need to go as efficiently as possible. So the very first thing that you should do is define what your goals are. And I always urge everyone to set specific money goals. Like, here's an example. And this isn't showing up correctly, you guys. So hopefully you guys can see that, but it's really important to set money goals. And so oftentimes people set a goal of, well, I want to own a rental property. And that's fine, but you should really drill down and get super specific. Why do you want to own a rental property? So here's what it could look like. I want to make an extra $500 a month with rental income, or I want to pay off student loans with rental income, or I want to make enough rental income to pay for a down payment on a home or rental. So do you want to make an extra $500 a month with rental income, pay down your student loans? Do you want to beef up your savings? Do you want to travel more with rental income? Or do you want to buy a rental before you buy a home for yourself, which is also a thing. People rent where they live and own rental properties, and those rental properties pay for their living expenses, pay for other goals they have, and that's fine too. So, how do you get started? Like once you have those goals set, how do you get started and what should you do based on where you are on your journey? And so we're looking at three different scenarios today. One is the first time home buyer. You don't own a home yet, but you want to buy a home and you want to make sure you do it right. Two is the homeowner who wants to own a rental property. And then three is the renter that wants to own another rental property and isn't quite sure how to get there. So, if you are a first-time home buyer and you're trying to figure out the best way to get started, I have two scenarios for you to consider. The first thing I want to say to all first-time home buyers out there is that you're at a really, really good starting point. You're in a really good position because you have the opportunity to leverage an abundance of resources. As a first-time home buyer, there are these programs out there called down payment assistance programs. And down payment assistance can basically lower or eliminate your down payment. So down payment assistance programs can lower or eliminate your down payment. And down payment assistance programs come in many forms. There are grants. And so grants can be at the national, state, or local level where the city of San Antonio could say, hey, if you're a first-time home buyer, here's $10,000, here's a $10,000 grant towards your down payment if you meet these different requirements, right? Or there could be a national program, with Chase Bank where they're giving a $5,000 grant for first-time home buyers. And so there are grants and then there are loan programs. And so a really popular loan program for first-time home buyers is called NACA, NACA. With NACA, if you are a first-time home buyer, you can buy a property with 0% down, as in no down payment, as in no down payment, which is insane. And it's true. It's a really, really good program. NACA, NACA.com. And so if you're a first-time home buyer, you have these resources you can leverage that are down payment assistance grants and down payment assistance programs that can both lower or eliminate your down payment. I did not know about these when I first bought my first house. I wish I had, because it would have saved us a lot of money. And the really cool thing about these programs too, you guys, is you can actually use more than one program at once. So you can layer programs together and save as much money as possible. So definitely keep that in mind if you're a first-time home buyer, if you're buying a house for yourself to live in. This is not for rental properties. If you're buying a house for yourself to live in, you can lower or eliminate your down payment with these down payment assistance programs. There's a link that I'm going to share with you guys. I'll share it at the end, or it might be shared in the chat here shortly, with a link that you can look at down payment assistance programs by state. Okay, I'm actually going to have to try something different here with streaming because this is not showing up correctly. Let's see here. Let's see. Okay, thank you for putting that link in there. Thank you. Thank you. If you guys have any questions while I'm going to get this back up. We tried to troubleshoot this, but I didn't foresee this. Super sorry, you guys. Okay. If you guys can't see it, let me know. Um, okay. So are you guys still able to see me? Please let me know in the chat. All right. So we went over down payment assistance programs. If you're a first time home buyer, this is a great way to get over that down payment hurdle, because if you think about it, the down payment is one of the hardest parts of home ownership, right? Figuring out how to save up all that money that you need to buy a house. You may not need to save it all. If you can qualify for these programs, then you could really be in a start off, in a better place. The second tactic I want to share with you guys who are first time home buyers is this concept of house hacking. Now, house hacking is not it's not shady at all. It sounds a little shifty because the word hacking, and you're like, well, that sounds a little shady, right? What does hacking mean? House hacking is basically when you buy a multi-unit property, you live in one unit, and then you rent out the other units. And house hacking is really cool because it allows you to get your first rental property and a primary residence all in one without the high down payment. So let me kind of break it down a little more. House hacking is basically buying a apartment building that has 4 units, 3 units, or 2 units. So a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex. You're buying that property, you live in one unit, and you rent out the other units. The reason why this is so significant and why it's so valuable is because if you think about it, if you go to a bank to get a mortgage and you're getting a mortgage on a property that you're just going to rent out and not live in, the bank is automatically going to ask you for 25% for a down payment. In most cases, 25% down payment could be $60,000, $70,000 or more. That's a lot of money. On the flip side, if you go to a bank and you ask for a loan for a property that you're going to live in, that down payment is immediately lowered. You can get a down payment of 3.5%, 5%, 10%, even 0% if you go through NACA, right? Or go through these other first-time homebuyer programs. So what house hacking does is it eliminates the need for an extremely high down payment, and it also provides value because you're getting a home that you're living in and that you're renting out. So it's satisfying the need for your housing requirements, and your tenants are going to be paying for you to live there, basically, right? You're receiving rental income. The really cool thing too is for all of us, and we're in San Antonio. You guys have seen those side by side duplexes, basically two houses joined together by a garage. You could buy a house like that, live in one side, and be renting out the other. That's so unique because in a lot of other places around the country, multi-unit properties are like stacked on top of each other. And that's how it was whenever my husband and I we house hacked a 4 unit apartment building. And I would have much rather preferred to do the side by side because it's just easier. You're not sharing like walls with someone living above you and below you and all that kind of stuff. So definitely consider that. If you're looking for a house, consider house hacking because you're buying a property for you to live in and to rent out. Now, the question I get all the time is, well, what if I just tell the bank that I'm going to live there, but then I don't really live there because I want to get the lower down payment? That is illegal. If you're house hacking and if you're going to buy a multi-unit property and live in it and rent the other one out or rent the other units out, you need to actually live there, usually for at least a year. But saying you're going to live there just to get a lower down payment and not actually living there is illegal, and it's mortgage fraud, and you will go to prison. And I don't want y'all to go to prison. So don't do that. So house hacking is something that I always like to share. I want to give y'all a side-by-side comparison. So if a property is $228,000 and you buy it as a rental property, the down payment would be about $57,000. If you were to buy a duplex property that's $228,000 and you live in one side and rent out the other, the down payment could be as low as $8,000 if you use what's called an FHA loan. F is in Frank, H is in Harry, A is in Alpha. I don't know all the whatever you call them, but F is in Frank, H is in Harry, A is in Alpha. So if you use an FHA loan, the down payment could be as low as $8,000. That's a huge difference, and that's the power of house hacking. So I definitely wanted to share that with you guys. I also want to say you don't have to be a first time home buyer to house hack. You don't have to be a first time home buyer to house hack. It's just a strategy that a lot of first time home buyers will use. So, again, if you're a first time home buyer and if you're house hacking, you can still use programs that will lower or eliminate your down payment. And I have a link that's going to be shared with you guys that'll show you state by state what programs can be used. So I don't know if you guys have any questions. I cannot see the chat right now because of the way that I've shared my screen. So I'm going to try to get through this and leave some time for questions. So with down payment assistance, there are a few myths right here. You can take a screenshot of this or take a picture of it if you want to come back to it. I think you guys will have the replay as well. But down payment assistance, there are myths that you have to be low income. You can only use one program. You have to be a first time home buyer. Those aren't all entirely true. Most programs are for first time home buyers, but you can find a few here and there that are for repeat home buyers. The one thing that remains true, though, is you have to live in the house to get down payment assistance. It cannot be for rental properties. Okay, so let's go on to the next example. If you're on this call right now and you already own your home, so you own the home that you live in, but you're ready to get your first rental property, here's a tactic that you can use. Because here's what I hear. Like, okay, I want to get into real estate investing. I want to buy a rental property, but how am I going to get 25% down? Like, how can I afford a rental property? And my answer to people who say this is you might be living in your rental property right now. And so there is this primary residence method that people have built massive real estate portfolios by using this method. Instead of paying 25% down for rental properties every time you want to buy one, what if you use the house that you already live in right now, turn it into a rental, and then buy a new rental for yourself? I mean, buy a new house for yourself. So the house that you live in right now would turn into a rental property, and then you buy a new house for yourself to live in. You move into that house, right? Because like I said, when you're buying a house and you're getting a mortgage for a property that you're going to live in, the down payment is immediately lower. It's easier. It's more affordable, right? And so what some people will do to get over this down payment hurdle is to do this, the primary residence method. So they have a house they already live in, or they buy a house for themselves, right? They live in it for a year, 2, 3, however long. And then what they do is they buy a new house for themselves to live in. They move into that house and they rent out that first house. And they just keep doing this as many times as they want, because buying a house for yourself is always going to be cheaper than buying a rental property. But what you can do is turn that house that you lived in into a rental and just keep doing that over and over again. So if you're thinking about buying a rental property, but you're thinking it's too expensive, you might be living in your rental property. Oh, the slides are not showing? Okay. So let's see here. So what slides are you guys seeing? Let's see. Okay, are you guys seeing my slides now? Okay, let's see. Are you guys seeing the slides now? Okay, thank you. Thank you. So, okay. So I don't even know what you guys were looking at while I was talking. They're in edit mode. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, let me go back through here. I don't know. Did you guys see the slide? Like while I'm presenting, I can't see you or the comments. So I'm going to look to see if Can you see the slide with two houses on it? Okay, so we're good to go. So what I showed you guys before is a side-by-side comparison. Sorry about that, y'all. Of buying a house, like a multi-unit property, a rental property that you're not going to live in, right? $57,000 down as a down payment is a lot of money. But if you house hack and live in one unit and rent out the other, that's what I was showing you guys a side-by-side, and y'all didn't see that. I was talking about down payment assistance, talking about house hacking, talking about the power of, buying a rental property and primary residence all in one. You guys will get these slides. I can also just re-record this whole thing in a quick video and have it uploaded for the chamber. But what I'm talking about now, you guys, is for those of you who own a home right now and you're trying to figure out how to get that next rental property, consider making the home that you live in a rental if the numbers make sense, buying a new house for yourself, living in that house, and you can keep doing it over and over again to avoid that high down payment, right? So that's called the primary residence method. People have built massive portfolios doing this, buying a home for themselves, living in it for a while, renting it out, buying a new house, so on and so on. Okay. So the next scenario we're going to talk about is if you're not ready to buy primary residence, but you are ready to invest in real estate. I want to encourage you that this is okay. If you're not ready to buy a home for yourself yet, but you still want to make passive income with real estate, that's fine. People do it all the time. There are some people who will say, well, you need to own the home that you live in. I never like to speak in absolutes because everyone's situation is different. You may live in, you may be moving soon. You may not want to set down roots right now. There are some people who live in really high cost of living areas where it doesn't make sense for them to buy a house where they live. Like people who live in LA, they might not want to buy a house for $1.2 million that only has one bathroom for them to live in. They're going to rent and they're going to buy out of state. They're going to buy in other states. And honestly, y'all, like in San Antonio right now, the housing prices are really expensive. I think it's outrageous what they're charging for some of the stuff that I've seen. And so if that's cost prohibitive for you, but you're renting right now, or even if you own a home right now and you're trying to get into real estate investing, but it's too expensive here, you may consider investing out of state. One thing that I want to urge you to think about if you're investing out of state is to consider markets that you have some knowledge about first. So if you went to college in a certain market, you might have went to college in Virginia, North Carolina, I don't know, you went to college somewhere else, Arkansas, Louisiana, do you have contacts there still? Do you at least know something about the area? Also look at markets where you have family, where you've lived before, right? A lot of us are connected to the military. So we have roots and we have family and connections in a lot of different places. So consider markets that you have some knowledge about. But even if you invest in a place that you don't have any knowledge or any connections, that's still okay. That's still doable. Just make sure that you do your research, you know the numbers, you have a property manager on the ground if if that's something you decide to do. But definitely consider like getting outside the thinking outside the box and investing out of state. So really quick, we'll talk about a few ways to finance the purchase. I'm like looking at time here because I definitely want you to be able to ask questions. There is so much to cover. I could probably talk for like 30 minutes on each of these different scenarios, and then even longer on like financing, running the numbers and stuff like that. So I'm trying to cram as much as I can in here for you guys. But when it comes to financing, so you've set your goals, you figured out, are you going to buy a rental? Are you going to house hack? You're going to buy a house for yourself? It's like, well, where do I get the money? There are a few different ways. You can buy cash if you got it like that. If you got cash that you can spend like that, kudos to you. But one thing I want to talk to you guys about if you're trying to use cash to buy a property is like think about the power of leveraging funds. If you have $40,000 and if you found a property for $40,000, that's cool if you can buy it cash. But like once you've put all of your money into that property, that's it. Like all your eggs are in one basket. And so that's the power of getting loans. That's the power of getting a mortgage, is the fact that you're able to take just a portion of your own money and then leverage the bank's money or leverage a lender's money, right? That's the power of using a mortgage or using loans, using capital partners like you see in these other bullet points here, right? So cash is great, but it does have its limitations. So you all know mortgages, you can go FHA, conventional VA loan, if you're a veteran. You can also use hard money loans. If you're flipping properties, hard money loans have very high interest rates, but you can do that. You can also use what's called seller financing. This is really important for a lot of us who are self-employed. This is a great strategy because what you'll find, you guys, is like being self-employed and tax write-offs and all that stuff is all fun and games until you've written everything off and then you try to go get a loan or a mortgage. And yeah, your business made all this money, but then you said it made this much, or you only paid yourself a little bit, right? Because of all the write-offs and being really strategic and not wanting to owe Uncle Sam a whole bunch of money. And now the mortgage company's like, you didn't make enough money to buy a house, right? And so it's really important to get a CPA involved because if you plan on buying a house, you want to be really strategic about tax write-offs and how much money you're making in your business and how you're allocating it, so that you can actually get approved to buy what you can afford, right? If for some reason you didn't do that or you don't have it set up to where you're able to get a loan right now, seller financing is really cool because seller financing basically allows you to buy a home or property without the bank. In this instance, the seller acts as the bank. So whoever's selling you the property, you're going to pay them every month, kind of pay them a mortgage, just like you would pay a bank a mortgage, but there's no bank involved. The seller's going to say, okay, I'm going to sell you this property, right? It's still going to be in your name. You still own it, but they have a lien on the property. You're paying them, every month, just like you would pay a bank. If you default on payments, just like with a bank, that seller would take the house back. So same setup with the bank, but less red tape, less hoops to jump through to get approved and everything like that. So seller financing, you can look it up to see, about it more in detail, but that's a really great strategy for people who are self-employed or who have, not so great credit and things like that would prevent them from getting a mortgage. Capital partners are great, basically partnering with family, friends, other investors and things like that. One of my investor friends always says, in order to invest in real estate, you need three things. You need time, knowledge, and money, but you don't personally need all three. So time, knowledge, and money. You might have the time and the knowledge, but you don't have the money, but you know someone who has the money who doesn't have the time or the knowledge. You guys can then link up and you'll be a great partnership, right? So if you only have one of the three, find someone who has the other two. Find two people that have, one of the other two. Y'all can link up and really be an asset to each other. That's what capital partnerships are all about. So those are some ways to finance the purchase: cash, seller financing, mortgages, hard money loans, capital partnerships. You can also buy using funds from a self-directed IRA. I mean, there are some other ways out there, but these are like some basic ones to start with. So we're getting towards the end now, but I wanted to talk to a few points of fear. So this is actually a picture of me leaving my government job, like walking out for the last time, turned in my badge. And I always laugh because the building actually looks like a jail, and it felt like a jail, but like really in real life, it looks like a jail, which is so wild. It's even set up. It was actually the builder, the architect who built it out or made the plans, just copy and pasted the plans that he actually used for a jail. So the way the offices were, it's wild. So this is me like breaking free. I even have on stripes, which is so ironic because isn't that what the jail uniforms look like in the back in the day? If you think about that movie Life, I think. So that's me breaking free, y'all. But here are some tips to overcoming fear, because real estate investing is risky, right? Any investment is risky, and there's always a risk when you're investing. So what if I can't find a renter and I end up missing my mortgage payments? The biggest tip that I can give y'all, and this is what a lot of investors miss, is make sure that you always put yourself in a position to pivot. And I know you as business owners, y'all get it, right? Y'all do this, right? This is what you do. So I know y'all can handle this one. Let's say you identify a property, right? And you're like, this is going to be great on Airbnb. I know it's right by the military base. They always have graduations. I'm going to put it on Airbnb. I'm going to make $8,000 a month, which is very plausible. Like Airbnb money is good money. Believe me. Ask me how I know. It's really good money. But what if something happens and the city that you're investing in cracks down on renting to Airbnb and you can't do it anymore? Or what if something happens and you get bad reviews and you're not getting as many bookings? If you are going to rent out a property, you got to put yourself in a position to pivot and still be profitable. So if it's going to work on Airbnb, great. But if it doesn't, can you rent it out to Section 8 and still be profitable? Can you rent it out to students? Can you rent it out to military members? Can you rent it out to travel nurses and still be profitable? It's really important to make sure you can pivot and still be profitable no matter what your original plan was. And also, you should also research your city's rental assistance resources. Those are really important as well. Okay, so it's still not showing. Okay, you guys. Let's see. Saying my slides are still not showing. I have no idea. Let's see. So you know what, y'all? I'm gonna try to reshare. And I do a lot of webinars. I do a lot of like stuff on social media. And I used to feel really bad when technical difficulties would happen. But then y'all remember in the height of the pandemic, they would do those versus battles with different artists on Instagram. And it would be these artists with all the money in the world, world renowned, super famous. And they would have all these technical difficulties with all this like equipment and experts and all this stuff in the background. I'm like, man, if these people with all their equipment and all their money and all the resources they have still can't even do a thing, I'm not gonna feel bad if me in my room on my one little laptop. Technology has a mind of its own sometimes. So
Hey, Kendra, if you want, we can share. I guess I don't know if originally you had the Google Slides up. I think those are working better. I think the issue is it's not clicking through; it just stays on one slide. So maybe we can try the Google Slides tools you have.
Yes. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Is it clicking through now? Can y'all see it going through?
That's perfect.
Okay. That's so great. I don't know what's happening. So here you might see the text is a little distorted. But let's just get through this so I can get to your questions. So put yourself in a position to pivot. 2, I'm afraid I'll get terrible tenants that will ruin my place and cost me money. Yes, getting bad tenants is a risk. It's also very risky depending on one stream of income, because anything could happen at any time, right? We've all seen that with the pandemic and all kinds of things with the, recessions, all that. You can vet your tenants, you can screen them, and just bet on yourself that you'll make the right decision. What if too many maintenance issues come up and I lose a lot of money with repairs? That's a great question too. It's always a great idea to have reserves. If you don't have at least 3 months of expenses saved up for that property, I would say wait. Like if you're not in a position where you could handle all of the expenses for that property, even if you did not have a tenant, like let's say you can't find a tenant, your tenant doesn't pay, whatever happens, the roof needs to be fixed. If you can't handle those expenses for at least 3 months on your own and still survive and thrive, then you shouldn't invest in real estate just yet. So always have repair money saved up. What happens if I get in over my head and lose money? That is also a valid concern. And so, what I'll say to that is that you want to make sure that you are researching, putting yourself in a position to pivot. Um, don't get stuck in analysis paralysis, though, right? You still have to take action. Often, experience is the best teacher. Uh, and so, getting in over your head and losing money only comes if you really don't prepare. If you have done the research, if you have the reserves, if you know that you can pivot and be profitable, if you know you vetted your tenant, if you know you can lean on, different state-run programs and things like that. If your tenant doesn't pay, or if you whatever happens, then you should be fine. What if I fail? My response to that is, but what if you fly, right? You've all seen that quote. What if you fail? But what if you don't, though? What if you don't? And sitting on the sidelines is costing you so much more than making one mistake might. Sitting on the sidelines is costing you so much more than buying a property and having to fix an air conditioning unit, right? Yeah, those things come up. Yeah, you might make mistakes, but what if you win? Like, what if you knock it out the park? What if you are able to set your family free with real estate investing? What if you were able to pass down properties and generational wealth that will get your kid into college for free if you do this? Like, and so that's that's how I see it. I'm always been the type of person to just bet on myself and be like, I'm gonna figure it out, right? And I know that you guys can do it too. So let's see here. So, to get started, one, as a recap, map out your goals, pick a method, figure out how you're going to get started buying a house, house hacking, buying a rental. There are other ways to invest in real estate too that we didn't even talk about today, but picking a method is really important, and sticking with that and learning everything you can about that method, and then learning from others like you did today. Like, there are podcasts out there, books. You can find me on Instagram. I'll share my information in a second, where you can learn from others' mistakes. There's no reason that any of you should make any of the mistakes that I did, because you have me to learn from. I did not have me, which is why I created the key resource, so that I could be the help that I needed when I started. And that's what I want to be to you guys too. So sorry for the technical difficulties, y'all. We have about 15 minutes for questions. I will get the slides to you guys. I'll even do like another little recording and just go through everything so you can see it all while I'm talking, and post it in the membership group. But here's my Instagram, the key resource. My website is thekeyresource.com. And also, like I told you guys, I'm a published author, and the book is titled Acres. And it's really about changing the narrative surrounding Black wealth in America. Acres is it's telling the stories of 25 young Black real estate investors who have built wealth from the ground up. The name Acres is basically is paying homage to the fact that we were promised in quotation marks 40 acres and a mule right after slavery. We never got it, but it doesn't even matter, because we're building wealth on our own. We're getting these acres on our own, and the stories need to be told. You always hear so much negative news about Black people and about Black wealth. And so I wanted to shed a light on the positive things that are happening, the change that's happening, and these beautiful stories. This is Black history. So I feel really honored and humbled to be able to tell these stories. It's a coffee table book. And so it's a piece of art. Like, there's beautiful pictures in there, wonderful, inspiring stories that hopefully you can see yourself reflected in. That's always my goal, is representation and inspiration and education. This book is all of that. You can pre-order it at getyouracres.com. And thank you. Yeah, I'm super excited. The orders are going to start shipping in August. And so, again, if y'all have any questions, let me know. Sorry for the slides, but I'm like, if famous people on Versus can't get their stuff together, I hope y'all give me a little bit of grace. I'm not famous.
No, it was amazing, Kendra, and I mean you're an outstanding communicator. Very digestible information. I truly enjoyed it. I know folks who are watching enjoyed it. I saw a few roots there. Lawana LJ, she said she's going to order her copy now of your book. We're super excited to have you as a member of our chamber, but also have you as a local expert that can help guide us through home ownership and buying and things of that nature. Even Ronald just said, he said, thank you for, where is it at? He said, outstanding. Thank you. Great
Well,
job.
thank you.
Right on. And so I guess in a sense, as a chamber, we're always talking about empowering, our membership, our community economically. And real estate has always been one of those things that really increased the net worth of individuals. And we know the history of this country and redlining and things that kept us away from building our net worth with has a trickle down effect in regards to things that we can invest in later on. And so thank
Hmm.
you for, really highlighting how to get involved now, because I guess let me ask you, what barriers externally are we faced with this day? I know there's fear, but what other barriers can people look out for that may be external?
Yeah, oftentimes when you're the first person in your circle of friends or family to invest in real estate, you get hit with a lot of like naysayers comments, right? Because people are going to try to limit you based on their fears and their lack of knowledge. And I think that can be really discouraging because the people closest to you can have the worst things to say. And not because they don't love you, maybe because they do love you and want to protect you and they're scared. And so I think getting past those comments can be one of the biggest hurdles in the Black community because this is new for us.
Absolutely. And so you've met with people. I imagine the book really brings stories in. I think you said 25 real estate investors from around the country. What are some of those key areas that folks are coming from within the book?
Yeah, one of my favorite stories is this couple who way back in the day before, like right before that real estate crash in like '08, they were killing it. They were out here like flipping properties in Atlanta. They said at the height of their success, they were making like six figures a week in some cases, like just easy money. And they're from the hood. So they had never seen money like this before. They would literally go to the bank, get on like cash these checks, throw it up in the air in their apartment and swim in it like you see on movies. And I know them. Like I know this couple very well, and they're not kidding. And they lost it all in the real estate crash. They had so much money. They had bought five different cars in same as that car in different colors just because lost it all, ended up living in their car. Family wouldn't help them, all that kind of stuff. Then they ended up rebuilding, learning that hard lesson about saving money, like all kinds of stuff. And now they're multimillionaires again. And now they're gonna keep it, right? But it's just really interesting. That's one of my favorite stories.
And they say once you know how to get to it the first time, if you lose it, you can build it again. And so
Yeah.
having that wherewithal and that resilience to keep it going. But that's a lesson in itself, right, Kendra? Because a lot of us, we're going to be the first gens to make a certain amount of money, right, and have these
Yeah.
opportunities. And so I think that's a lesson in itself. It's just making sure that we pace ourselves when we start getting those blessings, making sure that we pace ourselves so that we can keep it and pass a little bit down from generation to generation, right?
Definitely. Yeah. I wish that we had these conversations within our families more. It's something that no one ever talked to me about growing up. And I came from a middle class family. Like we talked about saving money and working a job, but never about investing. And so I hope it's something that, our kids will learn with more ease than we did.
Absolutely. Any more questions, please paste them in the chat here. Kendra, you've also been featured in Black Enterprise, Forbes, Side
Mhm.
Hustle Pro, and I think Journey to Lunch. Some amazing publications there. Um, so we're happy that your messaging is right here with us, right here in San Antonio, but also spreading across the nation to help our community at large. And Dr. Shantana Robinson said, "Wonderful." She gathered
Thank
a lot of
you.
great information. Dr. Shantana's with Live Fund, so I imagine they may even invite you to speak at a program or something like that as well. So overall, we truly enjoyed it. Sorry about those technical difficulties. We'll repost this. I think more than the slides itself, people just really enjoy getting the information from you. So thank you for taking time out of your day to present with us. This is Ms. Kendra Barnes. This has been our Meet and Learn with Building Wealth with Real Estate, and she is an investor, author, and founder of The Key Resource. Be sure to follow her on Instagram, the Key Resource, and also you can get your copy of this book, pre-order it at www.getyouracres.com. Super excited for that. And Kendra, any other parting words before we adjourn?
No, if you have any questions, you guys can definitely DM me on Instagram. I look forward to seeing y'all at the next event. I may have met some of you at the past event, but thank you so much for having me, y'all. And I hope that I can be a resource and an asset to you guys in the near future.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, Kendra, we'll talk soon.
Bye.
Bye. Well, thank you all for joining us today for our Meet and Learn. That was an outstanding presentation about investing in real estate and preparing our families and generations to come. The key word is legacy. That's what we're building. We're working on it day by day, and it takes all of us together. Our slogan here at the Chamber is "We're stronger together," and we absolutely mean that. It's going to take all of us to share our expertise with each other, our resources with each other, and also have some delayed gratification. As Kendra mentioned, as we start to come into the money, or we sustain the money that was passed down to us, we want to keep it around a little bit longer and let it cycle through our community on and on. So thank you all for attending. And if you're going to watch this later, please feel free to share this with your friends and peers within your network so we can be on the same page together. Again, I'm Xavier Tosin, Chairman of the African American Chamber of Commerce. This has been our Meet and Learn. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day. Take care.